Good evening. Good evening. My name is Tony Hunt. I'm the Vice Chair of the Webster Groves Planning Commission. We are a 9-member Board of Citizens appointed by the City Council to review development proposals and make recommendations to the City Council regarding future development of the city. In addition to the members of the Plan Commission participating in person and via teleconference, we have a few other representatives of the city I would like to introduce. Mayor Arnold is sitting in for Councilwoman Hickson Shepherd, City Attorney Neil Brunschrager, and Deputy City Manager Renee Tyler, and Assistant City Manager Eric Peterson. I would like to welcome you all to tonight's monthly meeting of the Commission and take this opportunity to explain how we operate. As indicated in our agenda, we will begin with the regular session of the meeting. We will approve the minutes of the July 1st meeting. Tonight's meeting is about the PC 2024 PC 06 SLCH KVC Mental Health Wellness Campus Request, changes of zoning and conditional use permits. We will continue the public comment period as we continued from the last meeting. Anyone with an interest in the proposal may indicate to city staff that they have a question or would like to express their opinion. To make sure that we accurately reflect your name, we ask that you fill out a speaker's card if you are in person and turn it in to Ms. Tyler, or those on Zoom, please click the raise your hand feature on Zoom to make sure that we accurately record your name. We ask that you identify your full name and address at the beginning of your comments, either in person or on Zoom. When you make your comments, we ask that you be as concise as possible and not repeat a point made by a previous speaker. We also ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes. One person who is a spokesperson for an organization or a group may have 6 minutes. Please note that all comments made at the July Plan Commission meeting are already part of the record and should not be repeated. In order not to be redundant, we ask that you not repeat information that has already been made part of the record. The commission has only the information that is being presented during the public hearing. The commission will not respond to questions, but all questions and comments will be noted in the public record. After all citizens have spoken, the applicant will be asked to respond to any questions that have been raised during the hearing. Comments concerning items not on the agenda should be made during the public comment section of the agenda, near the beginning of the meeting. When we have completed the regular portion of the agenda, we will go into executive session. At that time, the commission will discuss the proposal and may decide to vote on the application or to postpone the decision. You are welcome to remain and listen to the discussion, but there will be no additional opportunity for public comment at that time. Our recommendations are sent to the City Council, and in most cases, the City Council will conduct a similar hearing and must enact an ordinance before the proposal is finally approved. If the Plan Commission takes a vote tonight, the City Council will likely take up this issue at its first meeting next month. If you want information regarding our vote or the progress of the application, you may contact city staff at City Hall. I would ask at this time that the secretary read the first item for tonight's regular meeting.
Approval of minutes, July 1, 2024. Second.
Approval, second. All in favor?
Aye. Public comment.
Is there any public comment on the item not up for the public hearing tonight? Next item.
Nothing at all. Public hearing 24PC06 SLCH KVC Mental Wellness Campus 330 North Core Avenue, an application by KVC Behavior Healthcare Missouri Inc. and St. Louis Children's Hospital for a repeal of existing zoning of MEC Educational Campus District back to A3 10,000 square foot residence district and 3 conditional use permits to allow a hospital use and institution use in an existing cell tower located on 23.3 acre tract of land at 330 North Core Avenue.
Staff has a presentation.
No, we don't have a presentation. We do have We will have a presentation by the consultants that are here. We would like to say that the requested action is that the City Plan Commission is requested to review the application for a conditional use permit and make a recommendation to the City Council.
Okay, we left the hearing open at that last meeting and we requested the review of the planning study. Do you have the results of the planning study
Yes.
or the traffic study? I'm
The
sorry.
traffic study, yes. So the traffic study is going to be presented by our consultants and during their comment period.
This is their comment period.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt. Just to be clear, I'm assuming it's CBB and they're the applicant's consultant, not the city's consultant. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Since we don't have a presentation, can we read through the proposal summary just for any new attendees? I don't think they have a copy of the agenda tonight. Is there? Okay.
She wants to read through the proposal summary.
Thank you. The proposal summary. St. Louis Children's Hospital, KVC, has filed a petition to revert the property at 330 North Gore Avenue back to the original zoning of A3, 10,000 square foot residence district, and request for 3 conditional use permits for a hospital use, an institutional use, and a wireless communications tower use, located on the property at 330 North Gore Avenue. The subject property is located in the MEC, Major Educational Campus District, with a campus master plan on an approximately 23.3 acre tract of land.
Just state your name and
Good evening. My name is Michael Goslinga. I'm the lead architect for this project. I'm a partner with Hafer Welker, and we are the design firm for this project. Do you need my address?
yes.
4510 West 66th Terrace, Prairie Village, Kansas, 66208. So we are certainly humbled and honored to be here today. We know this is a very important topic, and I think it's something that every single person in this room can agree on, that this is a need in this community and for the entire region. And I think we're really here to have an open and factual based dialogue. We don't take this decision lightly, and we want to try to focus on just a few things that are being requested and updated from the last meeting to keep this moving. So we wanted to take half a step back here and just kind of remind everybody where this all began. So Webster Groves made a commitment to these very children over 150 years ago. This campus was founded in 1859, and it has stood in operation since that time. And you can see a picture here of a historic plaque from the Rock House building, again, referencing all the way back to 1850 and beyond. The city of Webster Groves actually takes its name from this original school, the Webster College for Boys. So a few recaps from the previous meeting. We just wanted to make sure did not get lost or missed. This proposal actually reduces the number of kids on the campus. It changes the total count allowed from the previously approved master plan from 312 to 255 children, a 20% reduction. That's actually 57 less children. So what that means is 240 school children were approved, plus 72 dorm rooms were approved. And we are revising that, capping the limit at 130 students, 48 outpatient program students, and 77 licensed beds. This proposed plan It also seeks to remove the dorm rooms from the campus. We think that's a very important, critical part about this. And we just wanted to ensure that we don't miss that we also want these dorm rooms to be removed from the project. And this is the proposal that allows that to happen. I need to make 3 points of clarity on the fencing. We are not proposing fencing the entire campus. The entire campus will maintain openness to all sides. We are proposing fencing the playground. The playground is not currently fenced and enclosed. And so this proposal shows a 4-foot aluminum picket fence that will enclose the playground, centralized to the building campus. And additionally, any of the larger fences are only used to enclose 2 wings of the building. All fences will not be visible from the right of way. We're using the buildings to shield them. There are very short stretches of fences, so none will be visible from the right of way. We've already agreed to an increased setback from an additional 30 feet on the north and the east at the last meeting. So a total of 70 feet on those 2 primary sides. This building improves the technical and operational security measures. This is a purpose-built facility, state-of-the-art facility with safety and security in mind. We touched on a few of those at the last meeting, but it's really, one, creating a new facility that's purposefully architecturally designed and laid out to create safety through visibility and connectivity, as well as certainly some of the controlled egress, cameras and card readers and other things that you expect on a modern day facility like this. We are, as a part of this project, we're improving the community walking path. That was really important to KVC. They did not want to lose that, even though we are impacting just a portion of that with the grading. So we are building that back, providing a brand new repaved 5-foot wide asphalt paving path for the community as it exists today. KVC's proven track record of safety. I would ask that please don't judge this project based on the failings of the prior operator. Many of the stories that we heard previously and that we may hear tonight, they were all related to a previous period of time, many of them having to do with the dorms that were in operation at the time. And this project seeks to remove those very dorms that are a source of many of those problems. So lastly, the primary reason, one of the things you've asked about was the traffic. So we have a summary here on this slide and the next, but ultimately the high point is this project reduces traffic during the AM and PM peak commuter times. Slide to the next slide here. So the traffic impact study, it was done by our consultant, CBB. It was requested by the city as a part of this submission, and it is an industry standard traffic impact study done in accordance with all standards. We followed the recommendation, which we do think is a true apples to apples comparison. So we compared what is currently approved and on file as the master plan versus what we are proposing as a part of this plan. So some of those things need to be taken into account, right? The number of trips related to the changes in number of students, the changes of associated staff, et cetera, that results in on page 19, you would see the summary of all those values. The high point is, and really the summary is, there are slightly lower trips at the AM and PM peak time, so less traffic on the roads. Slightly higher trips at PM dismissals. That'd be your afternoon dismissal between approximately 2:15 for KVC. But anecdotally, that is also when the significantly lower traffic on the roads in those afternoon hours. And then also not specifically referenced in the report, but I do think is of note, Givens Elementary has changed from a district-wide program, and from them, 300 fewer trips in the morning and 300 fewer trips in the afternoon related to that, pulling up to 600 fewer trips within the area that need to be made of consideration as well. So to summarize it all, and this will ultimately be 5 factors you are voting on tonight.
Can I stop you right there? I think we got what we needed to know and we'll go through. You can come back in.
Okay.
and
Yeah,
pick
absolutely.
up
You
where
want to pause
left
there?
off.
We can close with this. That's, or
Yeah,
talk
we have
later.
a question.
absolutely.
I did notice you didn't cover in there, but the traffic report itself, had a recommendation on page 35.
Yeah.
Recommend, note that there's a warrant for a left turn lane. I think it's 2 places,
Correct.
both North Driveway, Bismarck, and southbound, not the road.
Green and Rock.
I was curious for you comment on that.
Yeah, so good point. So 4 recommendations ultimately, 2 of them related to site distances and understanding view corridors and things for safety, all pretty standard there. So the volumes warrant for consideration auxiliary left turn lanes at southbound Rock Hill at the proposed north driveway, which is across from Bismarck, and on southbound Rock Hill at Home Avenue, which is the existing entry point. I think to note on that, obviously that follows with this sentence. However, the auxiliary left turn lanes have very little impact and improvement on the operational capacity and vehicular delays of those intersections. So I think ultimately what that points out is that limited additional traffic and or reductions is already there versus in the proposed versus the new, and has limited ability to provide ultimately any improvement to the existing condition.
There's limited, I see you're still keeping the level of service regardless. Sorry, thank you. So you're still keeping level of service up with or without the left turn lanes, but is it a capacity issue or a safety issue? The left turn lanes enhance safety considerably at those turns, especially when you're getting 300 cars the other way.
That's right. And that's why I think, ultimately, not ultimately recommended, probably for a variety of issues. Safety wasn't specifically mentioned, but not specifically recommended. Yeah.
I have a couple questions. You mentioned an overall reduction in traffic. Is that based on the observed traffic or against the approved traffic in the master plan?
Right. So good point. So we're a part of that conversation. We agree, and it's a part of any standard traffic study. We didn't want to take one random Wednesday in the middle of April and say that is the benchmark for all the dynamic different traffic that happens on this road every day. So those numbers are related to what is approved as a part of the master plan versus what we are proposing. So it is not specifically related to that single day and single moment in time's traffic.
Okay, and then same question for the number of kids on campus. 312 is approved, but not actual count of current students, yes or no?
That is correct. It is not operating at.
What is
at
the
full
current number of
capacity.
students who are enrolled?
Let me double check that. About 100. About 100.
100,
Yeah.
okay, thank you. And we're talking about a change to an approved 255?
So we're talking about, go back to mine. Correct. We are asking for a
Okay.
capacity of 250.
Thank you. And then just 2 more questions. One, when did KVC take over? Just so that I can understand if we hear from anybody else, what time period we're talking about that, just remind me. I'm sorry. Didn't write that down.
I'll let Lindsay, the
Thanks.
president, speak to that.
Good evening, Lindsay Stevenson. I'm the president for KVC Missouri. We took over April 1st, 2023.
Okay, thank you. And then since you have been operating the campus, have the dorms been in use at all?
No, we have not had any youth in the dorms at all.
Okay, thank you. That's it.
I have a question about that part of Rock Hill Road. Is that part of the county system or is that a Webster? Is that a Webster roadway?
No, let's- City.
That part is the
City,
city?
yep.
Okay, so if these left turn lanes were warranted, that would take place, if they were warranted, that would take place, at time of,
As a part of this
As-
project. Yeah.
so. It follows under all provisions of the city code
You're right.
shall apply.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Just wanted to clarify that. Okay, thank you. There was also an outstanding, at least in the staff report, there was an outstanding issue report from the police department. Do we have any comments? We received them from fire department and parks. Do we have something from the police?
Yes, ma'am, we do. Lieutenant Weimer, could you please come to the podium?
What's your question?
You're supposed to make comments regarding this proposal.
I'm sorry. So there was an incident that was reported involving a juvenile and a staff member. We can't really get into a lot of detail of that incident because of the nature of the offense and because it involved a juvenile. But what I can assure you is there's no continuing risk to the public. At hand, it was a very unfortunate, tragic incident. And so if there's any concerns about from the residents regarding that incident, I can assure them that is more than
Okay.
likely not to be an issue.
We
It is under the purview of the family services. So those records could be attained through them. Family services who have the investigative piece of that incident.
appreciate that comment. This was regarding the proposal. Do you have
I
comments
thought that's
regarding?
what, I'm unclear what you're asking.
The proposal is to build a new
I
facility.
thought you said
and-
something else. I'm sorry. I apologize. Well, I know there was some concerns about that. We have worked last Friday, myself, the chief of police and several members of police and fire came together and we met with the president and directors, and we talked about some of our concerns, and they are willing to collaborate with us on those concerns. So we are more or less in support of, as long as we can continue to be a partnership. And they work with us on our suggestions on moving forward with the project.
For the public, what are the Webster Groves Police Department's specific concerns?
So a lot of the concerns were based around the facility, things that were talked about previously, like the fencing, access to the facility, security for the facility, how many beds, how many staff. Those are the questions that we were asking. So they are more than willing to work with our concerns in that regard. Kind of brought that up last time at the meeting. I had brought up last time at the meeting. So we have to address as plan commission specific to this 5 factors. And that's really the limit of our purview, as I understand it, to address 5 factors. And one is that it doesn't overload public utilities. I always thought of utilities as fire, water, sewer, electric. The comment was made by one of the neighbors that it's going to be too much we're going to burden police and fire with the type of things going on here. And so I kind of asked, I guess, specific to that. So am I safe to say that you're saying Webster City and Fire are comfortable that this will not overburden their services? As it was described to us at the time, yeah, I think they're 77, is that correct? And with 200 staff. So this is a state-of-the-art facility where they have motion sensors and a lot of things. They have the ability for kids to be outside, but in a secure area, which is a big selling point for these type of facilities, is because a lot of them don't have those sort of options for kids, and they are kids and they need to be outside. So I guess I'm getting kind of off track, but yeah, I mean, it's unclear really at this point what the call volume will look like. They do have another facility in KC that just opened. So my intentions is to just kind of gauge their call volumes in the future as well to see how they would relate, because they're very similar facilities, but this one is actually improvements upon that facility in KC, that some of the things that they've noticed forward.
So you can say you reviewed the plan and you are acceptable of the development.
Yeah, as long as they're willing to, work with us and collaborate and be good partners, then yeah, I think that's something that we'd
Okay.
be willing to
All
entertain.
right. Thank you, officer.
Sorry to get off track there.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure what you're asking.
Well, it's a public hearing for the proposal. Okay, with that being said, we're gonna open up the public hearing. The first speaker card I have is Trey Pope.
Hello, members of the commission. My name is Trey Pope. I live 400 feet from KVC campus at 224 College Avenue. I'm here tonight with my wife, Sarah, and our two children, who are both students at Webster Groves School District. We oppose the rezoning of 330 North Gore Avenue from educational use to multi-use hospital institution. I'm here to ask you to preserve the character of our historic residential community. We moved to Webster Groves in 2011, and our home is the historic Piers Griffin home. The home we live in was built in 1867. It is designated historic by Webster Groves Ordinance 8095, passed in 1999. The ordinance was written to protect the house from development in the early 2000s, and once again, you're being asked to protect the home from overdevelopment. We live on College Avenue, named by Webster College for Boys, that was built in 1852. The site is home of the Rock House, one of the oldest structures in Webster Groves that predates the founding of the city. I give you the history because in consideration is rezoning request that fundamentally shifts the historic use of a site from education to hospital institution in a 100% residential area. We moved to the area specifically for the nature of the neighborhood and the community. When we purchased the home, we accepted the educational nature of the campus at 330 North Gore, and we knew that the campus was helping special needs children. We continue to accept and support the site, even though we've had to deal directly with failures in the past. This change of use is a step too far. The commercial building, light pollution, traffic, and general use being proposed will fundamentally alter the nature of our neighborhood. We don't doubt that there's a need for this type of facility in the St. Louis area, but very much disagree that it should be built in our historic residential neighborhood. Please consider the historic nature, honor the character of our residential neighborhood, the well-being of your residents, and deny this rezoning request. Thank you.
I'm Julie Cohen. I live at 242 College Avenue, 63119. Tonight you'll also hear from my husband as well. And he'll tell you that he was in the Air Force and our family moved a lot. I'm also a child of the military. My dad served 30 years in the Army. And in the military, we have a term called a forever home. It's the home you dream about when you're yet again picking up your house and moving every couple of years. In December of 2020, when my husband and I found out we were getting to stay in St. Louis and never have to move again, I started looking for our forever home. I dreamed about living in Webster ever since I moved to St. Louis as a teenager. When I walked into my current home on College Avenue, my sister can attest, she's here, I gasped. I could feel it. This was the home I wanted to grow old in. The home I was going to mark my kids' height on the wall in the kitchen and never have to worry about painting it over. The home someday I want my own kids to bring their kids home to. When people talk about property values, I think it's easy to get this vision of people seeing their homes as these investment properties, housing to flip or even to live in for a few years and then sell for a profit. But I don't think any of us see it that way. I want to live in my home forever. I never want to leave. We knew we were taking a risk, as Trey said, when we moved to Great Circle, now KVC. I mean, unless you're a millionaire, doesn't everyone have to make some sort of concessions in Webster Groves in order to afford a house? But we didn't take on this new risk of a psychiatric hospital, one that will be lit up at night, one that will make traffic terrible, one that currently only has 80 students at it, and you're proposing to increase it by 150%, not decrease it by 20%. I've tried my hardest to shield my kids from these terrible past stories that all of my neighbors have, because I don't want them to be afraid. And they haven't heard a word about the March 15 incident, because I also don't want them to be afraid. But there was a student apprehended in my yard while they watched, and now they're afraid to be in their own yard. I can't take back that incident of that kid being apprehended in my yard. But if they continue to feel this way more and more, I'm going to have to look to move elsewhere, and I don't want to. I don't want to speak for my neighbors, but none of us want to, but we also don't want to be in a position where our property values have decreased so much that we can't, and we feel trapped and we feel unsafe. So thank you for listening today.
Thank you. Robert Lehman.
Good evening, members of the commission. Thank you for giving us your time this evening. My name is Robert Lehman. My wife and I own the 1869 Rebecca Thompson house, which is a century home located at the corner of College Avenue and Thompson Place, just a few hundred feet away southeast of the KCV property at issue. I stand before you tonight to address the critical issue of tax implications arising from the proposed construction of a nonprofit, high-security psychiatric hospital for high-risk and violent adolescents in the middle of our residential neighborhood. While we fully understand and even support the need for such facilities, the location of this particular facility and institution in a residential area raises significant concerns, particularly as they pertain to the burden on our city's emergency and municipal services. This hospital will be exempt from property taxes as a nonprofit entity, shifting the financial burden to Webster Grove's homeowners and businesses. Yet this facility is not for the children of Webster Groves. It's for youth from throughout the region. The increased tax liability will inevitably impact our community's economic health. A high security facility housing violent adolescents is likely to experience a higher incidence of episodes requiring emergency response, such as elopements, assaults, and other disturbances. This increased demand for police, fire, and ambulance services will undoubtedly strain our city's budget. The costs associated with additional personnel, equipment, and training to handle these specialized situations will be substantial. Furthermore, the presence of such a facility may necessitate additional municipal services, such as increased police patrols, traffic control, and potentially even infrastructure and utility improvements and upgrades. These added expenses will further burden our taxpayers. We must carefully consider the long-term financial implications of this project. Our city's resources are finite, and we cannot afford to compromise the safety and well-being of our residents to accommodate a facility that poses such extraordinary risks. So for our community's financial health and safety, I urge this commission to vote against allowing this project to proceed. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Jared Cohen.
Good evening, members of the commission. My name is Jared Cohen. I reside at 242 College Avenue, which shares a border with the current KVC campus on the southeast corner. As a cancer physician and Air Force veteran, I have extensive experience treating patients with complex mental health issues and other neurocognitive disorders. I've witnessed the growing mental health epidemic firsthand and fully support the efforts to expand services for this vulnerable population. However, I do not feel that the inherent risks associated with the proposed facility have been appropriately disclosed to the commission members or to the community of Webster Grove. So allow me to do that now. The population that will be served in this facility will include those with severe neurocognitive and developmental delay, personality disorders such as oppositional defiant disorder and borderline personality disorder, those who are violent offenders, harbor suicidal and homicidal ideation. Those who require hospitalization and/or full-time residential care represent those with the highest needs. Issues of elopement, violence, self-harm, property damage, and non-adherence run rampant in this population through no fault of the patients. These are inherent risks, ones which even the most experienced and compassionate operators cannot mitigate entirely. As an example, on March 15th, 2024, a teacher at KVC's current day school was killed at the hands of a student. The details of this incident are included in Police Report 24-291. I personally requested a copy last week. However, its contents are protected by the fact that the involved party is a minor under Missouri Statute 211.321. I was initially made aware of the details of this incident through direct conversations with the Webster Groves Police Department officer involved in handling the case. The incident involves a teacher who was overpowered by a teenage female student with severe developmental delay and resulted in a teacher suffering fatal head trauma. Although no criminal fault was ascribed to either the student or KVC, this incident highlights the level of inherent risk associated with these types of facilities. In the same month, a student who eloped was tackled on my front yard in broad daylight, in front of my children who were playing outside. What if that was the same student? What if harm would have come to my loved ones or other members of our community? These incidents are already occurring at KVC's day facility. Opening a residential facility and inpatient psychiatric hospital would increase these risks by orders of magnitude. Neither KVC nor the city of Webster Groves were proactive in disclosing the above issues. KVC claims an outstanding safety record, and this simply isn't true. Moreover, they have spent considerable effort, without resistance from the city, I will add, to suppress information regarding this event in order to downplay the inherent risks of expansion. They have misled the public. We have a duty to make these risks known prior to the adjudication of this proposal, and our municipal officials have a duty to protect their citizens.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen. Phyllis Hickey?
I'm not too used to microphone. Am I doing okay with the microphone?
You're doing
Okay,
great.
all right, okay. My name is Phyllis Hickey. I've lived in Webster Groves for 30+ years. I'm a mother, a grandmother, and a nurse. I worked in medical surgical nursing and psychiatric nursing. I guess I'm sitting here now really bothered. This wasn't in my thing, but bothered by how people are so afraid of these children. Okay, they are children who've been traumatized that you can't imagine. I have a grandson who, before he was 4 months old, somebody probably threw him across the room. Okay, so he had trauma inflicted on trauma, inflicted on trauma. So let me go. So this bothers me a whole lot. My son was here the last time and talked about their 15-year story with their son. And I want to reaffirm the need for something in this area. I know that my husband and I were in the journey with Chris and his family and how difficult it was all those years. I think that they would have to go outstate to get Dwayne, I won't say his name, to get him out of the ER where he would spend sometimes days, okay, because he couldn't find any place. So my husband would travel with his son to these outstate places. They would only be able to see him for an hour on one day on a weekend and then the next day. So they would stay overnight, and then it would turn out they could only see him for a half an hour, which is almost ridiculous, but that's what was available. I'm advocating for this facility, not about us. We've been through this. We made it, okay? But for all the families that still exist, I recognize that people are concerned about their property values. I recognize they are afraid of these children. And once again, remember that these are children who are traumatized. You have to learn how to work with them. I would hope that KVC would begin to show the community and people who work in the community how to handle the traumatized children. As far as I'm concerned, this facility is a gift and a blessing. I plead with you to let this happen. I used to pray over these years that there would be something available for my grandson and for my son and his family. And now I see it possibly happening, and I'm finding myself really upset to hear about other people's concerns, which I can understand they are there. But these children have value and these families have value. And I
Thank
hope
you.
that you will follow through.
Thank you, Mrs.
Thank you.
Chris Hutchinson.
Hi, my name is Chris Hutchinson. I live at 446 Bacon Avenue. Just as a little background, I'm a traffic engineer. So reading this study, I have a little more knowledge. I'm same as the person Lee who wrote it in the room. I have a background in this area. What I will say is I think some of the important things that in the traffic study is what's missing. And maybe that's because the city asked for it, but as they say, it decreases traffic. Yes, it decreases traffic compared to the already approved master plan. Does not decrease the traffic versus what is there currently. They did not do an existing condition. And if you were turning a study like this into MoDOT for review, they would want to see the existing conditions, the opening day conditions. They'd want to see a future condition where it was not built, and they'd want to see a future build condition. They'd want to compare those to see how traffic is really affected. So I think by omitting the existing traffic, they're saying, hey, it looks better than what you guys already approved, but it's not better than what is there now. I think it's important. There are a lot more kids. While they mentioned that Gibbons has fewer car trips, but it's because more kids walk now to school along Rock Hill Road. Other things that I noticed in here, the warrant is met for a left turn lane, which would actually not be in Webster, it'd be in Rock Hill, because the Bismarck intersection coming southbound, that would be Rock Hill's responsibility. But they say, well, from an operational standpoint, it's not necessarily better if we put the left turn lane in or not, but they did not talk about a safety standpoint. A lot of times people will stop to make a left turn there. They may get rear-ended. That left turn lane moves them out of the through lane of traffic, which is actually a safety improvement that you might want to consider, but they didn't really analyze that. They also mentioned that both at Bismarck, there's a level of service F in the future for people trying to turn off of Bismarck onto Rock Hill Road, level of service E at Hearst Green. They did not provide any mitigation solutions for how they would fix that. It's not going to meet a warrant for a new traffic signal. All-way stop control is really not a possibility, but there's really no conversation in there about how to fix that problem. It's just, well, this is what it's going to be, so it's fine. I think that's something that should be considered. There's also no crash analysis in here. So while you're looking at the traffic operations, it's, well, the model says this is all going to work fine. It would be interesting to see here from the standpoint, are there crashes along Rock Hill Road and Gore where people are stopping to turn there or not? I mean, maybe there's not, but it's something that should be in the report just so they can be reviewed. So, like, are people getting rear-ended turning left? Are they not? It's just another important piece, because you may say, well, yeah, it operates fine, but from a safety standpoint, it may or may not be. So that's just another thing I think is kind of missing from this study that I think, if I was on the plan commission, and believe me, I've been on the other side defending these studies on a regular basis and been yelled at by plenty of residents. But, I think that's one of those things that, as the plan commission, it might be nice for you to ask to get some of that additional detail into the report so that you know what you're really looking at. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Tricia Lolio? Yeah. Okay. Catherine Medlin.
Good evening. My name is Katie Medlin. I live at 432 Bacon Avenue. Just for the record, I have a child with special needs, and I am acutely aware of the need for mental health services for adolescents and teenagers across the region. That said, I have some comments and questions about this proposed project. I would like to better understand the impact on pedestrians and cyclists. The site is located near both Gibbons Elementary and the Miriam School. As many of you know, many students at Givens walk to school along Rock Hill Road daily. That was part of the reason it was changed into a neighborhood school, to encourage walkability. Along with this, drop-off traffic from Miriam often backs up along Bacon Avenue and occasionally backs up onto Rock Hill Road during pickup times. To compound this, some of the streets in the area lack sidewalks, notably Bacon Avenue, which forces pedestrians onto the street as well. The traffic study appears to address primarily vehicular traffic, but does not really opine on the impact to safety for pedestrians and cyclists. Regardless, the traffic study actually shows an increase in actual vehicle traffic along Rock Hill Road due to the project. This increase in vehicular traffic in an already busy area will likely make it more dangerous for pedestrians, cyclists, and students. As Webster strives to be walkable, this proposal actually directly opposes that. In addition, I have yet to hear that the project's leadership went through a thorough site selection study. Did KVC's leadership seriously investigate and consider other potential sites across the St. Louis region before deciding that this location in a residential neighborhood was the best possible spot to introduce a hospital use that will attract patients from everywhere? This site, surrounded by 2-lane roads, far from affordable hotels that could accommodate visiting family members, and far from the ancillary acute medical services for its patients, does not fit most people's definition of an ideal site for a hospital facility serving a very large metro area. Please also remember that the population of Webster Groves represents roughly 1% of the regional population. In correlation, we can expect that about 1% of their patient population will actually be our children. This is not a facility primarily for Webster kids. I would also like to remind the Commission that this is not simply a replacement of the facility's existing beds into a new building. During the public hearing on July 1st, project representatives called this proposal, quote, a material change in the type of child, end quote, that they serve as compared to its existing state. Given these issues, I ask that the City Plan Commission seriously consider if, in fact, this use is at all appropriate for this part of Webster Groves, given its potential to negatively impact the surrounding neighborhood and schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Andrew, you know who you are. You tell me.
My name is Andrew Asakainen. I live at 225 Euclid Avenue. So on the other side, the north side of the campus right now. My question is, I'm still on the fence on what I'm feeling in terms of this, but I am curious how the school district, if it has been notified, if it's involved, if it's made a statement about its views on this proposal, because it will take away resources from the school. It will change, like I'm an educator, and I know whenever a facility moves into an area of a school district or a school, there are communication things that have to happen between the school and that facility. So that's one of my big questions is, how does the school district feel? Do they feel adequately prepared to work with KVC and see what happens in those things? That's my big question.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Debbie Diesenbach.
Good evening. My name is Debbie Dinsbach. I live at 220 College Avenue. My home is also historic, built in 1894 by Pierce Griffin. I used to serve on the Planning and Zoning Commission in the 90s, as well as Historic Preservation, as well as a Historical Society. So in summary, with my neighbors, I agree about the historical value of our neighborhood. I'm an occupational therapist by professional training. I graduated from Washington University. I've been working with neurocognitive disorder patients, both acquired and developmental, since 1985. This site location is not the location for the proposed patients that they wish to serve. Patients who will be served in this facility are in crisis. Crisis means they are not in a level where they can be spoken to reasonably, rationally. I've experienced this firsthand. Number of patients that I've worked with over the years, from state hospital all the way through my current employment, have eloped from our facilities with maximum security. maximum security, state-of-the-art security. They are able to escape. If they want to, they can. I've had two of my clients escape. One was naked, carrying a plastic knife, walked into a business and threatened to kill one of the business owners. I've had another client just recently escape with a diagnosis of schizophrenia, 18 years old, who myself and the physical therapist went and tried to rescue this individual, had to call the police, had to talk the police down to make sure that they did not use physical violence against this particular individual. And it resulted in a 3-hour ordeal in a residential community. I don't want that where I live. I don't want to come home and find someone in my house. I don't want to come home from work and find somebody in my garage. I ask you to please consider this. I support the need for this. I've had 2 family members who have had situations where they've required immediate hospitalization for mental health issues. They were not in residential facilities. They were in a hospital setting with the appropriate staff there to provide the care that they needed, not in a residential facility. Do you have any questions for me?
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Amanda Galloway.
Good evening. I'm Amanda Galloway. I've lived at 407 Lee Avenue for 22 years. I was at the last commission meeting when we heard our neighbors share their thoughts, and it was emotional for everyone. Those emotions have continued to build in the weeks since. There are many facets to this conversation. The most important consideration are children and families impacted by our broken mental health care system. This is deeply personal to them, and they deserve all of our compassion. There are homeowners who live near the property and have had years of negative experience. They deserve our understanding. And there is KVC and Children's with much good to be said about the life-saving clinical care they provide. My issue is with how this process has been managed, which I believe has already caused rifts in our community and raises questions about how the property will be run. The issue comes down to trust, and they have not earned ours. I first heard about this project not from the applicants, but via letter from the city 1 week before the July 1st commission meeting. I think we all know what the week of the 4th of July is like in our town, and there certainly weren't many people focused on this. I've been dismayed at how the applicants are falsely positioning this as a Webster project. Please understand that it is not for our community. It will serve profoundly troubled youth from throughout the region. Yet the last commission meeting included a video with footage of Webster High School, testimony from the counselor, and quotes from Webster parents. The presentation for this meeting headlined, "Webster Groves made a commitment to these very children 150 years ago, and that the project will, quote, improve the welfare and well-being of the Webster Groves community." Both statements are very misleading. It is hard to trust when it feels as if you are being manipulated. Imagine how different this process would be if KVC and Children's had invested time in our community, engaging us as a neighbor and improving how they will do better. The past 22 years have included youth tackled in our yards, loud sirens in the night, property destruction, FBI raids, leaders arrested for financial malfeasance and child abuse, and whispers of children and teachers dying on campus. This property sits prominently in our neighborhood, uninviting with no transparency, leaving us to speculate and learn about what's going on from patched together sources. Now they're pushing to bring children with even deeper needs into our community. We're being asked to take their word for it that their campus will be safe, to overlook historic performance. We are being tapped to step up and accept risk in our neighborhood to address a statewide crisis, decades in the making, while falsely being told it's for our kids. Instead of doing the work to gain our trust, there are already construction fences and equipment on the site. I care deeply about childhood mental health care, and my heart wants to want this project, but I do not believe it is a good fit for our neighborhood, largely because KVC and Children's have not shown they are good Webster neighbors. Thank you.
Davis, Magic. Good job.
I'm Davis Maddock. I own the home at 107 College Avenue, right at the bottom of the hill with my wife. And I hear a lot of really good feedback about property values and about safety, but I haven't really heard anyone bring up, we're walking into a panopticon when at the top of the hill, there are non-scalable fences. When you're going to be hearing, let's call it conservative, let's say once a month, you'll get police sirens or emergency vehicles. We hear about KVC's track record of safety, like a super quick Google will show you they've had issues in all of their facilities at KVC, Missouri, which is not to say it's necessarily their fault. It's just the nature of what you're dealing with. I've actually been in a mental health facility myself when I was in high school, so it's not that I don't understand the need for it. It's not that I don't understand why this should exist. I mean, I think pretty much any well-meaning individual can understand that there is very serious mental health problems everywhere. I don't really think anyone who doesn't want this in their facility is saying, not in my backyard, take it somewhere else. I think it's understanding that there's a real trade-off, but it doesn't seem that KVC really cares all that much about our neighborhood, right? I mean, the communication about the incident, I found out about the March 15th incident, not from KVC, not from Webster Groves, literally from neighborhood gossip, which is just really not effective communication considering I live 500, 600 feet away from this facility. And there's a real reason why it has to be rezoned, right? It's a reason they can't just make this decision and change the facility. It's because any well-meaning person, a city planner, an architect, whatever, they'd look at this residential neighborhood and they'd say, probably not a great place to put a psychiatric hospital. The resources are going to be taxed. I mean, even something as simple as you drive up and down College Avenue where I live, I literally don't know if an ambulance could even get through there with traffic on both sides of the road. Like it's which sounds so stupid, but that's like a real logistical issue that will definitely come to the forefront if this project gets to its conclusion. And just feels like really only one side of this operation cares. And I would love to hear more from the KVC people, but their proposal is, it's very high-minded, but it's not really rooted in the day-to-day of our neighborhood.
Thank you. Teresa Murphy.
Thank you, Commission. I am Teresa Murphy. I live at 222 North Rock Hill, and I'm in a very unique position because I also owned a house in Rock Hill, right across the street on Cyril Drive, which is so we have a traffic issue, and people would park on our street when I lived there. And now when I live in Webster, there's always so much traffic on that Gore and North Rock Hill. And I don't believe the study is correct. I don't believe the KVC people have even tried to even present themselves to our community. Since I live right across the street and I am a dog walker, I've noticed the property since KVC has gotten it. And they just mow the lawn once in a while. I know the ball fields across the street from where I live have just been, they just don't care. So I feel like if you can't take care of your yard, like, I don't know how you're going to take care of people in that facility. And I've heard the doctor and I've heard someone who is really into this mental health, and I believe them. And I feel like if there is, there are people that really need this kind of help, and I understand your issue as well, but this is not the place for it. The traffic, I just feel like there's not clarity from KVC, and it just seems like, boom, it just happened. Like, no one really knows about it in the community. Like, there's not even been any news coverage of it, which is really surprising to me. And I just feel like, please consider like people that walk their dog and have all that traffic. I mean, I know just a couple months ago, there was the traffic light right by the school that was out, and it would keep the traffic. Does anyone remember that? And the traffic would be backed up and then just go for miles and miles. And it was just, they couldn't fix it. I don't know if it was a Rock Hill thing or a Webster thing, but it was right in front of the Webster School. And I feel like because that's a Webster school, Rock Hill, that area, Rock Hill, should also be included in like the study because that was our street that people were parking on and clogging it up. Like there's so many kids in that area, you can't even walk. Like there's so many kids, the kids that walk to school. Anyway, thank you for listening to me. I hope you really consider this very strongly because I know I've been out walking my dog and I'm sure some other people have. When there are people from the place that was there before would be out looking for the kids that escaped. And, you know, the first thing you'd say, did you call the police? And they'd say, no.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I have 3 speaker cards from a group. You can pick one person from the group to speak for you. It's Michael Garcia, Allison Lehman, and Dana Atwell. So does one person want to come up and speak? Oh.
Yeah, I brought them to you at the same time, but we all have different addresses.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that was given to me with a paper clip, like as a group, but okay. Well, Michael Garcia.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to address you today. My name is Michael Garcia, and I reside at 245 College Avenue. I've lived there for 7 years with my wife and 2 children. Now, I'm going to amend my prepared remarks today. I'm going to try to be respectful of the commission and my neighbors. A lot of what I wanted to say has already been said, but there are a few things that I do need to share. Over the past month, I've had the ability to engage extensively with our neighbors in both North Webster and Rock Hill. And the most common thing that I heard after speaking with everyone was a sense of unawareness. Nobody knew what was happening, which I think we've heard in this room tonight. And the problem that, we see with this development are safety concerns. We've heard about that enough tonight. I'm not going to speak more about that. The community has already voiced numerous legitimate concerns this evening. I could add my own experiences with unpredictable behavior from eloping kids, not children, kids, and teenagers. But I think everything that we've heard tonight is pretty self-evident about the safety concerns. Now, we obviously do have a concern about the Givens Elementary School, and I know that's already been spoken about this evening, so I'm not going to say too much about it, but I do want to just reiterate the fact that I did review the traffic study provided by KVC, and there were 2 things that stood out to me. Number one was the nature which streets such as Gore Avenue and College Avenue were described the exact same language. A local 2-lane road. Now, anybody who has thought about our community, who has any experience with our community at all, would not put those 2 streets into the same category. And alarmingly, the study fails to mention Givens Elementary School at all. Now, we did see that it was mentioned this evening, and I think that was in reaction, kind of an, oh shoot, didn't think about it. But we know that this is going to increase traffic. We know that all of the safety concerns are not only going to affect neighbors, but are going to affect the Givens community. So I do implore you to remember the 250 plus Givens Elementary students, as well as the pedestrian community at large when you're deliberating on this rezoning of the site here. And since I do have 25 seconds left, I am going to say I am just shocked at some of the revelations that we were completely misled about traffic. We were completely misled about the safety of this from the applicant. And I don't know if there's anything that can be said to, or if we can believe what they say after that. Thank you.
Thank you. Allison Lehman. Allison Lehman.
Excuse me. Hello. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you this evening. My name is Allison Lehman. I reside at 135 Thompson Place with my husband, where we raised our two daughters. It is, Thompson Place is at the corner of Thompson Place and College Avenue, about 4 houses downhill from the KVC campus. I speak to you this evening to express my deep concern regarding the proposed zoning change, which would allow the current KVC day school facility to move from an educational zone to a hospital zone. We know the plan. I understand the need for such facility, but I firmly believe that this location would be entirely unsuitable given its immediate proximity to residential streets on all sides of the campus. Any Google map bird's eye view will show you it's completely surrounded by residential streets. Our neighborhood has been a quiet residential area where families have chosen to reside for its tranquility, safety, and diverse community. The introduction of a facility housing increasingly troubled adolescents poses a significant threat to this way of life. The likely constant presence of emergency vehicles, ambulances, police cars, as well as the constant noise from delivery and service vehicles will shatter the peace we currently have. Sirens, flashing lights, the commotion associated with such a facility will create a stressful and unsettling environment for our residents, particularly our children and the elderly. I come from a long line of social workers, including a brother who was the lead social worker back east for 2 inpatient psychiatric facilities for high-risk adolescents. Both of these facilities had campuses with beautiful winding garden paths, benches for conversations, tables for eating. He has told me time and again that they're lovely facilities until patients and their families and facilitators of conversation use those garden spaces. That's when the yelling, screaming, violence, and elopement attempts are likely to occur. That will change our neighborhood drastically. I urge you to consider the voices of the residents who will be directly affected by this decision. We, our children, and the elders in our neighborhood desire to maintain our safe and peaceful environment, and this proposed facility will make that impossible. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Dana Atwell.
Hi, thank you. I'm Dana Atwell at 223 College Avenue, and I would like to say first and foremost, I am fully aware and share the vision of helping students and patients. I see what KVC is doing here, and this has nothing to do with the mission that they're doing. This is all about location. And so I'd like to today say that I am against placing this in a residential neighborhood. I tried to submit a PowerPoint to you. I was told that I was not able to do that. So I brought a couple of handouts if I may. The first one here is the 4 current KVC locations. One is still under construction. And then the second one is the proposed one here in Webster Groves. So these are all just screenshots right from KVC's website. KVC is also now Chambers Medical Center. So they have 3 current locations, one in Kansas City, one in Wichita, one in Hayes. The one under proposed that should open later this year is in Olathe. You'll see in each of these, none of them are in residential communities at all. We'll start with the first one, which is the KVC. And you'll see just like regular, normal red dots to show you where the facility is. In Kansas City, there's a place that's just like the KVC that we have now, and then there's the hospital. The hospital is away from Kansas City, so it's up close near the river, much like I think Mary Grove here in Florissant is. The one in Wichita is located in Woodland Park, and it's a much more urban center. You'll see DMVs, you'll see Walmarts, access to public transportation. The one in Hayes is a very rural community near an airstrip, really away from everything, but wonderfully only 3 miles away from a trauma center there, which is Hayes Medical Center. Then finally, the one that's planning to open in Olathe. This is going to be just a half a mile away from the Olathe Medical Center. It's adjacent to industrial parks and business facilities. And you'll see that there are a handful of hotels there because people do need to travel from far away to get there. So these all make sense, right? These placements of these other 4 hospitals make a ton of sense. They're secure, they're safe, both for the patients and for residents or non-residents because people aren't really living around there. They're also an area where ambulances and other emergency vehicles can get through. Also, they're very close to specialized care near trauma centers, just a couple of miles. And then they have accommodations for people who are traveling 2 to 3 or more hours to get there and needing to stay. This is in total contrast to what is proposed right now in Webster Groves. This is a strictly residential community. We have tons of kids at elementary schools in our neighborhoods. We've got dogs walking all around. We have people running around. So safety is a huge issue here. We also have really narrow streets, which somebody else talked about. We are like 8 miles away from the next major trauma facility if somebody needs to get there, right? If they're trying to get over to if they need to get to Children's Hospital or any other emergency hospital, but half a mile away from an elementary school, which raises other concerns. Finally, you'll see there are 0 accommodations. We don't have hotels in Webster Groves. We don't have places where people can stay overnight. So in sum, I just want to say this really goes against the precedent. So when we talk about what KVC has in the past done, that's really not what we're looking at in this proposal today. Thank you for listening.
A couple of sentences or okay. I'll be quick. I know I was here last month. 333 North Gore. I have several questions for this panel. Would you buy a house now that you know all of this information next to this facility? If you know they're going to expand and add 3 more buildings, bringing increased traffic and safety issues. If this project is approved, how will we ever be able to contain it? BJC, I used to work in a hospital, I'm a nurse. BJC is constantly expanding. I guarantee you, within 5 years, BJC and KVC will be coming back to the Planning and Development Commission asking for additional buildings, additional services. Don't have anything. Please make the correct decision now so that we do not have to revisit this later. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Jeff Lash. Go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. My name is Jeff Lash. I live at 242 Worthing Drive in Webster Groves, and I'm here today to voice my support for this proposal. My support is based on 2 factors. Number 1, there are concerns about this proposal based on the idea of risk. What's the risk of having this facility in our community? What's the risk to safety and to traffic and to property values? Well, I'd like to talk about another risk, the risk of not doing anything. What about the adolescent who needs inpatient psychiatric treatment and is unable to get it because there isn't a space in other local facilities? What is the risk of having them in our community and not getting the treatment they need? What about the risk of a child who needs treatment but whose parents are unable to bring them to a facility outside of the St. Louis area or far from their house? What is the risk of that child getting worse or the risk of mental health problems to the parents? We don't know for certain what will happen, but I believe it is inappropriate to only look at the risk from one perspective. We must look at the risk of not approving this proposal. Number 2, several of the other people here speaking tonight have talked about character and the impact of this proposal on the historic nature of their houses and community. To me, community is so much more than when a house was built, or the name of the house, or its architectural features. I understand this is the Planning Commission, so let's talk about planning our community. I can't speak for others, but I can tell you about the type of community that I want to live in and why I moved to Webster Groves. I want to live in a community that looks out for those in need, that is willing to provide help to those in distress, a community that cares more about mental health than a lawn not getting mowed, or the impact on dock walkers, or what the impact this might have on other impacts in the community. A community in which this facility and location existed 150 years ago, before any of us moved in and before most of our houses were built. Though I live in South Webster, for the past 2 years, my son has attended the Miriam School on Bacon Ave. I drive there almost every day. I have not had any concerns about his safety in the past 2 years, and I would not have any concerns about him continuing to attend that school if this proposal goes forward. To all the people who say that they care about the mental health crisis in our country and who care about helping children, well, we have an opportunity to help them. It may not be a perfect proposal, it may not be an ideal option, but it is an option, and we as a community can choose either to help or choose not to help. I have had family members and friends who have needed psychiatric treatment, both outpatient and inpatient. I personally know the risks of not getting them treatment. I know the challenges of finding available beds and getting those people the help they need. I cannot imagine the distress of a parent whose child is in need of inpatient psychiatric care, and I can't imagine having to tell that parent that we as a community had an opportunity to provide that child with the help, and we in our community said no. Thank you for the time.
Hello, I cannot hear you.
Mike,
Oh, you're on. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Mike Shear. I live at 424 Bacon Avenue. First of all, I want to thank you guys for giving me time this evening to speak. I do believe that most of the residents in the near area of the location that we're talking about have pretty much covered everything we mentioned here related to that. The only thing I would add to that, as a resident of Bacon Avenue, and I've lived on Bacon Avenue for 11 years now, and I love living on Bacon Avenue. But it has its challenges. Right? And for example, Marion School, with the traffic that we have at Marion School, what our previous residents said about the backflow of traffic, I can't walk on Bacon Avenue right now because at 3:30 in the afternoon, because of the volume of cars that come up and down Bacon Avenue, I'm surprised there's not even a slow down sign by the city, because there's a school, at the end of the block, but there's no sign that even says to slow down at the end of the block for a school that's sitting there. That traffic does back up on Rock Hill. How will the traffic be handled on Rock Hill in the future with the additional traffic that we're going to have? Because as stated, currently there's about 80 residents living over at KBC, and there will be 1.5 times, 2.5 times that in the future. I just don't think enough planning has been done related to this. In addition to the police department, there were concerns in the document that was presented for this meeting. I think the chief of police mentioned it, he said, well, we'll work together with them. We'll figure these things out as we go along. With all the other issues that we've heard so far, I just kind of find that very concerning to me. So thank you for my time. Appreciate it.
Thank you. No more? No more? Okay, thank you. Do the petitioners want to come up and address some of the concerns, and we might have some questions? He doesn't have any more time, so.
Online.
Yep, we're all good. Okay. Well, you can come up.
We absolutely would. Is it possible to get a short break so that we can at least communicate amongst ourselves? So we want to make sure we can fully respond to everything. I certainly have my notes and I could speak for, if not, it's good. I just.
Disagree. I disagree.
Yeah.
I disagree.
Is
I'm
there-
sorry.
Just, well, we'll
If
We're
not,
just
that's-
going to ask you some questions. We have questions.
you want to do that, or I can.
Yeah, no.
I'd like to speak.
You need to fill out a speaker card.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. I will.
You're going to reopen the public.
it's
comment?
still open.
Okay. You want me to step back?
Sure. Well,
Okay.
you could, yeah, you can, yeah. He's going to speak. Why don't you?
I agree. Tony? Is that right? Hi, Tony.
Hi.
And the rest of you guys. Anyway, hey, I'm a resident of Rock
Name
Hill.
And yeah,
Okay.
name and
And
your address.
John Merriman. I live in Rock Hill. However, I'm right on the border of Rock Hill and Webster. I can see KVC right behind my backyard. Okay? My concern is, okay, traffic. Okay, I don't have kids. Okay, we're on a nice little 3-street, not even a cul-de-sac kind of thing. However, my concern is that we've talked to the neighborhood and we have expressed our arguments. I agree that there's a need for psychiatric care as far as children go, as far as everything else goes. But I feel like with Webster, Webster is not being, what do I say? You're looking at a nonprofit, so there's no benefit to the city of Webster Groves whatsoever. Okay, there's no taxes that you're going to collect. There's none of that. However, your services are going to be extended. Rock Hill services are going to be extended. So what's in it for us? I mean, truly. And at the same time, these people here, have you ever seen this much of a turnout for such a controversial kind of issue? Okay, I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in dressed up clothes. Everybody else is kind of casual, is kind of, hey, we need to do something about this, and we're here to do something about this. Okay, I was on the Zoom call initially, and I came up here because I felt like I needed to express my own opinion. Okay, and I don't mean to address you specifically, but I will. I felt you were very unprepared. And that's just my opinion. So
can you address us?
Anyway, so, okay, I got 40 seconds. I'm done.
Okay, thank you, John.
But I appreciate your time. And that's just my opinion. Sure, I've got my own right to my own opinion, but I hope that I speak for the rest of us. And so it goes.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, Tony.
Okay.
I think there's another speaker card.
Okay. Okay.
I wasn't going to talk, but I decided I'm going to the last minute. So thank you for accommodating. I really appreciate it. My name is Jessica Richards. I'm a resident of Webster Grove for the last 4 years. My kids, however, will be 4th generation Webster Groves residents. So their great grandfather moved here a long time ago and we've stayed. I'm also a nurse practitioner at St. Louis Children's Hospital, and I didn't realize that our president was going to be here, and now I'm really nervous. I take care of these kids every week. And the amount of trauma and brokenness I see week to week on children that have attempted this self-harm often. And I'm the person that gets called into the patient's room at 2 o'clock in the morning because I'm the provider on the unit when they want to know what's next. And the absolute worst thing I have to tell them is that I don't know, because I can almost guarantee you that the wait for an inpatient bed that your child most definitely needs is going to be long and hard. And it's possible that you're going to sit here in this, academic medical center with all these resources to treat medical problems and wait for the true psychiatric inpatient care that you need for a very long time, because there's less available space for that than we have to take care of kids with broken bones and broken brains and broken livers and everything else. And it's been the amount of othering and fear that I have seen about having these children in our community has been exceptionally disheartening. And there's growing pains through all big growth and all changes. But I would just please ask everybody to consider the opportunity that our community has to make such a positive change and such a positive impact for these families that absolutely are part of our community, are part of our neighboring community. They're the kids that our kids play sports against in games. And it's always an outside problem until it happens to your family. And I really think our community has a really awesome opportunity to give the kids of Missouri and Eastern Illinois and the rural communities surrounding us a really awesome highlight of how great and how awesome our community is, and to have these additional services. And that's all.
Dottie?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, thank you. I will be very brief. I live on 442 Bacon. I've heard a few of my neighbors speak, and I was a part of a large text thread earlier today. Many members in our community, and I'm not sure if you're aware, but we do have a petition on change.org that has been shared around. I think somebody in the room today had started it with over 190 signatures asking for this not to happen to our community. I was about to say, I'm a mother. I have 2 kids. Both attend Givens Elementary. This year, I was hoping my daughter could walk home. She would be walking all the way up around 2:50 in the afternoon when the study, the traffic study that we understand now not to be complete. That traffic study implies, sorry, a lot of people are texting me. The KVC would have the most traffic. So when Givens Elementary lets out at 2:50, our students, our children would be walking through now in a more highly traffic kind of conditions. The other thing to just consider, we did not get into our after school program this year. So our children, because the schools can't accommodate after school care, at Givens, the Adventure Club is overburdened. We're going to have more students having to leave the school to come home and be in our neighborhoods at this time. So again, somebody had mentioned, has the school district been brought in? I mean, the school itself is already taxed. So I think it's really important that we're considering that as well. Also on my street, some of my neighbors have mentioned Marion, which backs up around 3:30. So there are 2 large other schools in this neighborhood, which I think KVC should acknowledge, not just one. And that also taxes our street significantly, where we have no sidewalks for our students to walk upon. So aside from safety of my children, concerns about traffic and infrastructure in our community, I'm also we had this dream of moving to Webster. We built a house on our street and moved in 2021. There are several young families living on our street. We're all very excited to be a part of this community. And I just would hope that Webster stays Webster, preserves the ideals of our community, the character and gestalt of the community that we all work so hard to protect. And so thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, we did not get Dottie's last name.
I'm sorry.
My name is Dottie Hemba. Thank you.
Tony, I think now would be an appropriate time to close public comment. And if there are no other comments, and we can still allow comments from the applicant if they wish to do so.
And the commission members can ask questions at that time?
Yes, of course.
Okay. Okay. If there are no more speaker cards and there's two hands online or one. Hans Mugler.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. My name's Hans Mugler. I live directly across the street from this proposed project at 403 North Rock Hill Road, corner of North Rock Hill and Bacon Avenue. I know I can't talk about things that have been brought up, but I don't think there's anybody on this call or in the room or online that wouldn't support a mental health facility. Just not this type of facility and not in this location. Traffic problems, safety problems. I didn't hear anybody bring up lights, but throughout the year, we get bombarded with lights from the parking lot as it is, as people are coming and going in the middle of the night. As I said, we live directly across the street. This is a peaceful community for the most part. One thing I've known in the 35 years I've lived at this property and built a house here 15 years ago, it's a place where I've seen families grow up, seen their kids raised, walking through these neighborhoods with their dogs, with their strollers, with their babies. This is a traffic issue. It's a safety issue. It shouldn't be in this location. Not that we don't need it for all Missourians, but we just don't need it here. That's all I've got. Thanks.
Thank you. As the city attorney suggested, if there are no more speaker cards, there are no more hands risen, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close. Public.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. We've made a motion and it's been seconded
I'm sorry.
to approve the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Now, we're going to ask the petitioner to come up and answer some questions. We all kind of have questions, but a summary of questions. We've got, the traffic study, light pollution, emergency services, site selections, impact on pedestrians. Where do you want to start?
I'm happy to start on a few that I did star, at least as I was making notes, and then maybe that'll knock a few off your list.
Okay.
And then we can discuss some more. So I'll step one, specifically regarding the zoning. This project is reverting the zoning back to its prior zoning. So it is not trying to change it differently than it ever has been. It has been this previously. It was converted from this exact zoning to the educational zoning, and now we're trying to revert it back. So just to provide clarity there. We obviously had a good amount of conversation about the traffic, and it's been a part of it. As it relates to the study, I'll say we completed the study per the request of the city and per the request of what to compare. Not to say that we're not happy to dig deeper and to do further investigation on that. Not any issue there on our part. Obviously the hospital will fully be built to all the highest hospital standards, meeting all FGI, state and federal requirements. So as it relates to security, safety, the type of facility, again, a non-issue that wouldn't be related to this. So I'll let you guys go from there.
Does anyone have any questions?
With regards to the traffic study, I take it CBB is not here.
They are here.
Pardon me?
Yes, they are here.
They are here. Okay. Would one of them be able to speak perhaps as far as the standards that went into preparing it and how those may compare to to, as one speaker said, what would be prepared for MoDOT.
Good evening, Commission, Mayor, Chairwoman.
Can
My
you-
name's Lee Cannon. I am with CBB. I'm a principal of the firm with offices at 12400 Olive, Suite 430, Reed Corps, Missouri. So, yeah, well, first of all, the city has jurisdiction over Rock Hill Road and all the adjacent roads that are in the general vicinity of the site. And as step one of our traffic study, we were asked by the applicant to meet with city staff, and city staff told us what was important to them at that time. And the study that was prepared was responsive to those requests. Again, as the applicant, Michael, just mentioned, we're happy to update it if those requests and standards have changed. But our work was done to industry standards, and we did a traffic study that met what was requested from the city because it's city roads. MoDOT was not involved. But generally speaking, all the same procedures were followed. I think that the primary differential was the fact that we were asked by the city to compare what is currently approved, not what currently is being operated, to what is being posed. And that is what you see in the traffic study related to traffic operations. It's what if the facility is built out as it's already allowed to be built to and fully occupied under the approved master plan, without asking additional permissions. But then they would prefer to build out in this other way, and that other way will have less people on campus and therefore less traffic.
The study in particular, does exhibit 2, you have that in front of you, with the study, the existing traffic volumes, where were those taken from?
It should say in the report, but I've looked that up for you, sir. I don't remember right offhand.
It talks about, you went in April and counted turning movements from 7
Okay,
to
yes.
6.
So
But as
that
far
is
as-
correct. April of 2024. While typical other school facilities in the neighborhood were in session also, Edgewood Academy was in session. And we actually included in this report, traffic flow that's going over via College, to and from Gore and beyond, related to the school drop off and pickup functions. We did observations of that drop off pickup on the site today. We also did traffic counts at 7 intersections in the area.
So the existing figure 2 would be based on traffic counts.
That is correct.
I'm sorry.
That is correct. Yes.
Lee, it is a little surprising you didn't factor in any pedestrian walkability stuff. Is that because the city didn't ask for an analysis?
Yes, that's correct. Typically, that's first step that we do in any study, whether we're doing it on a MoDOT road, county, city, is we ask, what is important? What are the concerns that the city has related to the city's roads? And again, we're responsive to what was asked. Which, if there's additional concerns, we can expand what we've done if necessary.
So the comment was made by one speaker about safety, and I'd originally asked the questions of the first speaker about the left turn lanes.
Yes, sir.
And so was any accident history looked at all?
No. It's not. I believe you mentioned it.
It's okay.
I believe that you mentioned that there was, the left turn lanes are noted in the study that they meet volume warrants for consideration with traffic engineering. With traffic engineering, what we do is
we use those warrants to determine, okay, well, when should we consider turn lanes and when do we not need to consider turn lanes? So the volume thresholds were met. We looked at some analyses of the operations for the intersections, and adding left turns doesn't improve the delays and the levels of service for the intersections.
Excuse me.
I would like to
To my
expand-
original comment of, I understand it's not a capacity thing, but there could be safety issues there that are driving that warrant or that would help address.
That is correct. And I didn't get to finish my statement just a moment ago, in which I wanted to balance. When traffic engineers are making considerations about those types of things, we think, okay, to some extent, it could be safer to pull the left turns out of the through movements, which would allow the through movements to move through and continue on their way. But also, those types of additional improvements may increase the ability of traffic to flow at higher speeds, which may actually not be as safe. So there's a balance there. And we don't talk about it in the study, but the idea that there's some level of, say, healthy congestion as traffic is flowing along the road that makes that traffic glow a little slower when traffic is a little heavier. So again, it's up to the city, because it is the city street, to determine whether left turn lanes would be required. That is up to the city as a mitigation measure. In the traffic study, we left it kind of open-ended, and we were unable to continue our conversations with the city staff that we would normally do after we submitted a study.
I gotcha. We got you. Michael, okay.
No, I was just noting, but that's okay, because that's the purpose of the commission and the council, is for us to continue the conversation, and we appreciate you being here for that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I have a question. There's been a lot of talk about the population, the kids. This doesn't, this isn't a traffic question. This is a use question. The children that are there and the population is there. Can you explain to me, because I am not a professional, the difference between those uses? The, what do you have? You have the partial hospitalization, you have outpatient, you have inpatient health bed, psychiatric, residential. What is the difference between those? And is that different than what's already there or what they're already serving?
Good evening. I can share currently on the campus is a K through 12 day treatment school. So we have students that are on our campus that are youth that have autism, and then also youth who have mental health and behavioral health issues. And then we have community-based services on that campus also that are foster care services and family preservation services that we use to strengthen families. I'll let my colleague here talk a little bit about the programming for the future use.
Hi, my name is Kim O'Connor-Soul. I'm with KVC. So there are 4 levels of care that we propose that we are discussing. So intensive, and it's a continuum of care. The state of Missouri has children dying. We're ranked pretty low nationally on how we're responsive to the mental health crisis that are hitting our youth and children, specifically 17.99 and under. It's the second leading cause of death here. The children served on this campus predominantly will come in the hospital and stay 3 to 7 days. In that level of care, they're getting immediate crisis intervention. And the goal is most of them are coming in with a mood disorder, depression, bipolar. They're coming in with anxiety and suicidal ideation. That's the predominant population that we're seeing. St. Louis Children's Hospital is treating them for the comments made about criminals and violent offenders. I deplore us to think about mental health and not stigmatize it as a violence and a criminal behavior. There's children in need. Then the residential program is those youth just staying a little bit longer. Then the intensive outpatient and partial hospital programs are outpatient services where they live at home in the community, and then they come to care and treatment during a certain set of hours. The partial hospitals, and those are during the week, Monday through Friday. The partial hospital program is normally 4 to 5 hours a day. It does include tutoring that would be provided. There was a question about our school services. The average length of stay for the bulk of the population that we're talking about is 3 to 7 days. So we often get schoolwork from the sending school, from the parents, and they can keep up with it. But transparently, we're dealing with a mental health crisis. So our goal is not necessarily primarily focused on their educational needs, and they would not tap into Webster Grove school services at all. And in the PHP program, we get that same kind of information from their sending school, and we will provide tutoring during that time. The intensive outpatient program, the kids go to their home school. They spend the day at their school, and 2 to 3 nights a week, they'll come to us in the evening. So it's sort of like a step down process, trying to make sure that kids have the proper care and support after the need of a crisis.
But residential care like they had previously, where they lived there 24/7.
So, sorry, can you repeat the question?
So they're approved for 72 residential units now. So you won't have 72.
That's exactly right. So the opposite of approving, the state has requested that we reopen those beds. We declined the state and said that this is a safer level of care. This is our best recommended path to meet the needs of the community, to meet the needs of the children that are suffering right now. And so there's not an intention to open up those residential dormitories and those 72 beds. That's correct.
Any other questions? Kyle? No questions? So I've been asked to, by the city attorney to let you know that, there's only 5 commission members here this evening. Approval of this application requires a majority of us. So you need 3 out of the 5 of us to move this forward. You have the opportunity, I'm told, that should you choose to exercise the option, you can postpone this vote to a later meeting if you would prefer a greater complement of commissioners. This option, you'd have to do it before we actually go into deliberation, if you should want to do that. No, I'm sorry. So, it's up to you. We are ready to deliberate is what I'm saying. So
Understood.
I'm,
Trish Lalo, Webster Grove resident, president of St. Louis Children's Hospital. Given all of the feedback, we'd really like the opportunity to postpone and think through the traffic implications as well as some of the other concerns that were raised. So we'd like to come back.
is Peter still there?
I'm here.
Okay, so how we
Yeah,
just
so right now, we should close public hearing. That's what needs to happen right now anyway.
yeah, we already closed the public hearing, but we did not open the executive session. I don't know
Yes.
where we are. We're kind of in limbo here, but
And I know we closed public comment. Did we officially close as our motion to close public hearing? That's what's going on right now. When they make additional comments, that's still in public hearing going into the record. So
okay.
there should be an additional vote to close the public hearing, and then there would need to be a follow-up motion to continue the matter.
Can't hear you.
There should be.
Yeah, but I think you said that there needs to be a supplement motion to continue the hearing. Is that correct? Following that closing of the hearing?
A second motion, yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay.
And is this time certain, Peter? Should the
Until
motion
our
be
next
made
meeting?
time?
To our
Till
next meeting.
Okay. Would someone like to make a motion?
I have a question. If we can, first of all, is it the applicant's choice? Is that what we just said?
They've
requested that, or we're asking them?
We gave
Which
them
of
the
the two?
opportunity.
It is their application, is their choice.
Okay, thank you. And then does that mean the public hearing continues at the next meeting, or it's just the public hearing up to this point, and the commission then would open an executive session?
So there's the public hearing itself is, my understanding is would be closed at this hearing. And they would be submitting, I guess, if they are asking to submit something else, there could be a request to reopen the public hearing at that time.
Understood. Thank you. Motion to close the public hearing.
Michael, second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So then we need a motion to continue.
At the next meeting, right? Or a motion to continue at our next meeting in
So I
September.
move to continue 24 PCO2, 24 PCO6, SLCH, KVC Middle Wellness Campus, 33 North Gore to the next.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Can we add to that motion? Can we add to that motion the date of that hearing of the next meeting?
This meeting in September,
September 9th.
September the 9th. We're gonna reopen the public hearing after, they're gonna come back and we'll reopen the public hearing. Absolutely, absolutely. Oh, yeah, yes. If we reopen the public hearing, yes.
I'm sorry, wait. We don't necessarily have a new public hearing, correct? Unless we reopen it.
Correct.
Okay.
A motion. We can, yes, it would be on the agenda to reopen the public hearing.
There won't be, there isn't officially a public hearing at this point. It's been closed. If the applicant makes a request to reopen the hearing for the limited purpose of supplementing what has already been added, they may do so at the next meeting, but that's, while nothing's been done, there is not a public hearing that's.
So the applicant gets to decide if we get to speak again, is that what I'm hearing?
No, a public hearing is a public hearing.
Say that if the applicant wants us to speak, they can request that, is that correct? Am I wrong or am I right?
It's the public hearing is the meeting itself.
Can we get on the record who is speaking there? If the applicant chooses to reopen the public hearing, there will be an additional opportunity for public comment as part of that hearing.
And that's what I'm asking. So it's up to them to decide if they're gonna open this?
Yes.
If the applicant chooses to proceed with their application that way, then yes.
Right. Otherwise, Peter, at the next meeting, under the executive session, we could take this up for a motion.
Correct. And that's the only thing that would be on the agenda for the next meeting at this point.
Correct.
They can present, but we can't if they choose not to reopen. Is that correct?
That's correct. But you can submit anything you would like for us to look at to the city staff, and that will come to us. That will be part of the public, it will become part of the public record, whatever you submit.
So doesn't that seem, sorry, this is Jared Cohen, just for the record, doesn't that seem somewhat disadvantageous to us as the public that they're having an additional opportunity to interface with the council, but we're not necessarily able to provide our comments and rebuttal unless they choose to elect that as a public hearing? When initially they were postponing this, I thought this was simply a numbers issue about how many people are sitting today.
Excuse me. If the public hearing is closed now and they choose not to reopen the public hearing, we deliberate based on the information that we have.
If they choose to reopen the public hearing though, does that mean?
Then you.
And for the purposes
Yes,
of
correct.
maintaining the record, can we please have anybody who, well, we shouldn't be entertaining additional comments at this time anyway, but anybody who's making a comment needs to be preserved in the record.
Again, this Peter, I'm sorry, but Peter Fella is a city attorney. So that's why he's speaking. He's trying to make sure we're following all the applicable laws and regulations so that we don't do anything we shouldn't do.
And you're
And-
given the
and-
opportunity to speak.
So we're trying to
So
do at
you
least-
can, up until the next meeting, you can submit anything in writing to staff. We will, so that in either case, if it's not reopened and you don't have the opportunity to come up and speak, we will have something in writing that will be as part of the record and we'll move on.
So this is Debbie Middlebach again, and I just submitted letters.
Right. Also, once this is decided at this level, it goes to city council. There will be another public hearing. So there will be a. Okay?
Madam Chair, those letters were submitted via email to
Yes, we
everyone as
have
well as
already
they are on the
received
dais.
other things, and that those are already part of the record that what we have received. I'm going to read the next item on the agenda.
Other business, right?
Move to close.
Uh,
Oh,
I-
close.
I actually do have
Oh.
one bit of other business. Just to follow up, you received written communication from myself and Emily Hickson Shepherd about your work plan, which is great. If you have any questions about that, please let me know. Second, I know in your last meeting, some of you asked about the progress of the Lakota group. They will be coming to the August 20th meeting during the work session for council to give a report. You don't have to be there. Everyone can watch it on videotape. They're just going to give an update of their state of the city portion of the information that they collected over these last several months.
we closed the public hearing and we made a motion to possibly reopen. Yeah, so all of our motions are done. Right. Okay, that's our other business. Okay, motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all for coming.
Yeah.